Hello all, welcome to this session. In this session, I am going to answer software testing interview question 88. That is, what are APIs? Let me answer. API stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay, A for application, P for programming, I for interface. It's an application programming interface. So to understand API, here I'm not going to give any definition. Okay, for API because with the definition you will not understand what exactly is API. Okay, there are a lot of misleading definitions out there. But let's go into the reality. Okay, and try to understand what exactly is API. That is application programming interface. Right? Why it is required, okay, why developers have to develop these APIs, all these things let's learn in this session. Okay, so to understand what exactly the application programming interfaces are, we have to first understand that in an application, okay, whatever the application you take, the application has multiple layers. Okay, the application will have multiple layers. We can divide the application, a single application, into multiple layers. That is presentation layer, where you see the look and feel, UI layer of the application. Okay, user interface, where all the text box fields are there, buttons are there, hyperlinks are there. Okay, that is a UI layer. That is a presentation layer of the application. And every application will have a middle layer known as business layer. Okay, there will be another layer known as business layer. It is a middle layer. Okay, where all the application logic will be written. Okay, where all the complete application logic will be written. So how the application has to work. So programmers or developers have written the logic, okay, programs for building this business layer. Okay, so complete application logic will be written in the business layer. And finally we have the database layer, guys, which stores the data related to the application. So if I take you to any application, let's say if I take you to this one of the sample application, and if I take you to the let's say what you can say login page. Let's assume that let me take you to the login page. So whatever that you are seeing on this page is the UI, right? It's a UI, user interface, graphical user interface. It's a presentation layer. So the colors and right, the options, okay, the hyperlinks, the buttons, the text fields. So it's all part of the presentation layer. That is a UI layer or graphical user interface layer. But what happens when you enter an email address here and password here and click on the login button? What generally happens? So here, when I click on login button, when I click on login button after giving the credentials, the application is allowing you to log in, right? Application, you are getting logged in. But how that is working? Is presentation layer doing all this stuff for you? No. Okay. In the background, there is a business layer. Okay, where the logic has been written by the developers. Okay, that is known as business layer. Okay, how the login functionality is working for you when you give the proper credentials and click on the login button, how the login functionality is working. The program has already been written by the developers. So when a particular user gives valid credentials and click on the login button, allow him to log in. That logic is written in the business layer. Using the presentation layer, we are performing the actions, but ultimately the application code which is allowing the user to log in is written in the business layer. And finally, the data. Okay, how the application is able to judge that this is a valid username and valid password, because already the created account, the data related to the existing account is stored in the database. Okay, the business layer logic is checking with the database layer logic to see whether with this account credentials any user account is existing or not. It is checking. So all that such kind of data, okay, whatever, when you are creating an account or when you are adding an address, when you are trying to log in, right, this data is stored in the database. Okay, database like DB you can say, it stores all the database of the application. Hence you can divide an application into multiple layers. That is presentation layer, which is just look and feel graphical user interface. But when you perform actions using the presentation layer, okay, the code that is written by the developers in the business layer will be running. Okay, to make that possible, the code that is written in the business layer will be running, and this code will be involved with the data, and all this data will be maintained by the database, that is database layer. Okay, these are the three layers of the application. But where do these APIs stand? Okay, where the APIs will be created, in which layer the APIs will be developed by the developers. Okay, for which layer the developers will be developing the APIs? Will they develop the APIs for presentation layer? No. Will they develop the APIs for database layer? No. But will they develop the APIs for business layer? Yes. Okay, developers build the APIs or business layer of the application. Okay, why? I'm going to answer. Okay, why the developers have to build or develop or create the APIs for the business layer? What are the different reasons why the developers have to build the APIs for the business layer of the application? Here are the reasons. Okay, with these reasons you will understand why APIs came into picture. Okay, this is how we have to understand APIs, guys. Just understanding the definition is not at all good, because a lot of definitions only talk about APIs in one point of view. Okay, so APIs are something like which communicate with different system, like that. Some kind of definitions are there in the market. I strictly don't recommend following such kind of definitions, because you have to ultimately understand what exactly are APIs, and which layer of the application they are created and why they are created. This understanding is more important than understanding or like memorizing a definition for API. Okay, so here guys, the reasons for developing APIs. Okay, what are the different reasons for developing? Why developers have to build the APIs in this business layer of the application, that I'm going to explain. These are several reasons, guys. So each and every reason is very important. So focus. Okay. So first of all, the functionality of a software to be utilized by other software. Okay. There comes a situation where one software want to use the functionality of another software. What can be the examples here? I'll show you the examples. I will give you the examples so that it will make your understanding more easy. You see, make my trip. Okay. Anyone use make my trip? Let me show you how the make my trip looks like. If I go to the makemytrip.com, okay, and if I search for, you see, from New Delhi is there to Bangkok is there. If I click on search button, what happens? This makemytrip.com will search all the flights of different companies. Okay, at this given details, right? According to the given details, what are the flights available? It will display. You see, Vistara flight is available. The Thai Airways is available. Okay, if you want to travel from New Delhi to Bangkok, Thailand, then we have Vistara, Thai Airways, Indigo, different flight. Sri Lankan Airways is there, Singapore Airlines, Qatar Airlines. A lot of airline company related flights are coming. But you see, Make My Trip is a different software, whereas Vistara is a different flight company, right? They are both are different companies. Make My Trip is one company, and Vistara flights is another company. Similarly, Indigo is another flight company. So if I search for Indigo, let's go for Indigo, guys. Okay, if I search for Indigo here, I'll get a lot of flights from Indigo. You see, Indigo has its own website, okay, to display the flights and all. Indigo company has its own website. Like you have to give the like same thing. Like for example, Delhi, he will say Delhi, and again the same location will give Bangkok, Thailand, and yeah. So what is the return date? Something 3rd April has been selected here. Let's say 29th. We'll select the return date, and yeah, search flights for now. I just want to see the flights, okay, on that particular date from Delhi to. You see, these are the flight details, okay. These are the flight details from Indigo, okay. Indigo has its own website and its own functionality is there, but still, Make My Trip is another website where not just Indigo related flight details will be displayed, but all the airlines, okay. All the different airlines related company flight details will be displayed in a single place, a centralized place where you can find the flight details of different flight companies. So how the Make My Trip is able to display the flight details of this Vistara or Indigo or something? Indigo has its own, right? But still, Make My Trip is able to display the flight details of this Indigo company. How this is possible? Because what MakeMyTrip.com has done is it has taken the APIs of the Indigo. Okay, Indigo company has shared the APIs to the Make My Trip company, and Make My Trip software using the APIs of the Indigo is displaying the flight details of the Indigo here. Similarly, Make My Trip is using the APIs of the Vistara flight company to display the flight details of the Vistara. Similarly, Make My Trip software is using the APIs given by the Thai Airways to display the flight details here when people search on Make My Trip. Okay, everyone is there. You see, all the different flight companies are providing their APIs, okay, which will display the flight details to the Make My Trip software, so that Make My Trip can utilize the APIs of different flight companies and display all the flight details at a single place. Is how the APIs work. Okay, this is one of the reason why the software have to develop the developers have to develop the APIs for the software. You see, here the developers of Indigo or the developers of Vistara or Emirates or whatever it is, okay, developers of different flight companies are building the APIs so that other software can utilize these APIs and display the information like this here. Okay, that is one of the reason. Okay, functionality of the software to be used by other software. Here, functionality of Indigo is being used by Make My Trip. That's one of the examples. This is the reason why developers build API. This is one of the reason why developers build APIs. Okay, so that other company websites, other softwares can use these APIs and build something on the top of that. You see, have you another example I will give? Okay, more examples. Different contexts are there here. So here, Google authentication. Have you heard about the Google authentication? You see, different websites. Okay, instead of building their own sign-in mechanism or registering account mechanism, what they are allowing is to make the sign-in authentication process more simple. What the different software companies, softwares are doing is they are allowing the users to log in with their Google authentication or Facebook authentication or Microsoft authentication, right? So that's what is being done. Okay, so there is a website, and the website, instead of okay instead of ask a website is giving multiple options to log in, guys. Okay, so you can create a new account, or you can use your Google account to log in, or you can use your Facebook account to log in, you can use your Microsoft account to log in. Like that's a lot of functionalities the different applications are giving, so that it will make the job of the users easy. Trying The people who want to sign up with the account, right? If they want to sign up with Google, you see, it will be very easy to sign in, right? So Google authentication. For example, Jira software is there. I'll show you how the Jira works. Let me take you to Jira. Just search for Jira in the Google, and you'll get this atlassian.com software Jira. Click on this link. You'll be taken to this web page and say get it free. Just click on this get it free option. So yes, click on next, and you'll be taken here. You'll be taken to this page. I'll say sign in with a different account, and I'll say add another account. You see, when I'm trying to sign up with add login with different account, you see this particular Jira website or Atlassian company Jira website is asking you to log in with Google. Google authentication is allowed. Microsoft authentication is allowed. Apple authentication is allowed. Slack authentication is allowed. These are the multiple. These are the different platforms, right? So how this is possible? This website, Atlassian Jira website, is using the APIs of Google. Okay, here Atlassian website is using the APIs of Google. Atlassian website is using the APIs of Microsoft. Atlassian website is using the APIs of Apple. Atlassian website is using the APIs of Slack. Okay, so instead of building their own mechanism of login, getting the user login into the application, here this Atlassian website is using the APIs provided by Google, so that when they embed this APIs of the Google in this Atlassian website, people can also sign in with Google account. Okay, that's what is the benefit. You see here, APIs of Google authentication are used by Atlassian Jira. Okay, this is another reason. Okay, so if functionality of the software to be used by other software, for example, functionality of Indigo need to be used by Make My Trip, or functionality of Google authentication need to be used by Jira. In that case, these companies like Indigo or Google authentication softwares have to provide their APIs to the respective applications. Okay, this is one of the reason why APIs are required, why developers develop the APIs or create the APIs. Another reason why APIs are developed by the developers is reusing the application logic for creating different customized software. Okay, using the application logic for creating different customized software. I'll show you. So if you talk about Visual Studio, guys, okay, you'll understand this after I explain about Visual Studio, how the application logic is reused for creating or developing different customized software. So let's Google search for Visual Studio here. Let's Google search for Visual Studio here. Visual Studio. When I Google search, I'll get this link. I'll go to this website, and I'll go to the downloads, guys. After going to the downloads, you see here, let's say Visual Studio 2022 software is there, but this Visual Studio 2022 is not coming in a single version. Okay, you see when I click on this download Visual Studio, multiple options are coming. A community edition is there, professional edition is there, enterprise edition is there. Multiple editions are there. Okay, you can use the Visual Studio community, which is free, guys. Okay, people can download this Visual Studio 2022 for free. Okay, it's a community edition, but some features will be limited here. Okay, some advanced features will be limited in the community edition. People who don't want that advanced features, right, they can use a free version of this Visual Studio. And similarly, we have another version, that is professional edition, is also there, which is not free, guys. It's a trial free. After trial period is over, you have to pay the license amount. Okay, similarly, enterprise, even more advanced than professional, there is an enterprise. Okay, it will be more costly than professional. So here most of the functionalities will be common. Okay, whatever the functionalities that are there in the community edition will also be there in professional, and whatever the functionalities that are there in community and professional also will be there in enterprise, and more and additional functionalities will be there. So here whether the developers of these three editions of the software, same software, have to write the code from scratch for each and every application. They have to write the code from scratch. So if the developers have developed this community edition having the basic features, again the same basic features have to be developed from scratch for professional edition. No, what the developers of this professional edition will do is they will use the APIs of the community edition to create the professional edition. Okay, simply they'll use the APIs of this community, and using the APIs, right, they will reuse the APIs. Okay, instead of building again from scratch, they will reuse the APIs, guys. Okay, so here reusing the application logic for creating different customized software. That's where APIs are required. Okay, they simply reuse the application logic for creating different customized software. So example I gave you, Visual Studio, which is having multiple editions. So instead of building the code programming logic from scratch for each and every edition, they're going to reuse the APIs of the previous edition, the basic edition, and try to build up some more customized software on the top of that. Okay. So these where the developers have to, this is one another situation where developers have to build the APIs, okay, and reuse the APIs for building other customized softwares. Now, reusing the application logic for different platforms. This is another situation where why developers have to build the APIs for a particular functionality of the software, where let's assume that there is a web application. Okay. Let's say there is a application and it's only in the format of web application is already developed. Now what happened is the requirement came where mobile application has to be created for the same web application. Okay. Web application for that particular application type is already there, but mobile application is not there. So here, instead of the developers writing the code for mobile application from scratch, what they are going to do is they are going to create the APIs for this web application. Okay, they are going to build the APIs from using this web application code. They are going to build the APIs, and these APIs they are going to reuse in mobile application so that the development for mobile application will become faster. Okay, so this is another reason. So same application in web application format and mobile application format. Okay. So let's say there is a Facebook.com application, web application is there, but Facebook doesn't have the mobile application. Facebook mobile app is not there, let's assume. So what the developers of the Facebook mobile app will do is they will first build the APIs for the web application. Web application is already there. Facebook.com is already there. They will build the APIs using the logic created for the application logic created for the web application Facebook.com, and using the APIs, they will reuse the APIs for building the mobile application so that they just build the user interface of the mobile application, and in the background, they're going to use the same APIs that web application is using. So ultimately, mobile application development becomes faster. Okay, because of the APIs, reusing the APIs in the mobile application platform, mobile application development becomes faster. This is another reason. And other thing is client server communication. Okay, every application communicate over right, the client and server communication will be there for the web applications generally. For example, if you take facebook.com, okay, if you take facebook.com, how the facebook.com communication will happen? You see, this will be your laptop, right? This is your laptop, let's say, and in your laptop you opened one browser, let's say Chrome browser or some browser you open. In the Chrome browser or whatever the browser you just browse facebook.com. What will happen immediately when you say facebook.com? Okay, a request will be sent to the server. This is your laptop, let's say this is my laptop. I am staying in India, Telangana, Hyderabad, my location. And here we have the server. Okay, this is a server where the actual application code of the Facebook, okay, a set of servers or server of Facebook. So Facebook server, this is Facebook server, but this Facebook server is somewhere else. Okay, maybe in Singapore or somewhere it is hosted. Okay, somewhere in the remote location the server is set of servers are there. So when I hit the facebook.com here, over the internet over the internet a request will be sent to the server, right, which is at a remote place, and this server will have the application logic. All the application logic will be there in the application logic related to facebook.com will be there in this server machine, which is in which is running in Singapore. A request will be sent to this Singapore server machine, and this code will be running in the server, and as a response, okay, as a result, the response will come back to the client machine. Okay, as a response will come back to the client machine, that is a browser inside this laptop. It's nothing but the client here, and based on the response, So you will see the pages of the facebook.com. Okay, based on the activities you perform Facebook, the request will be sent to the server. Appropriate application logic will be running on the server machine, and a response will be coming back, so that you will see the respective responses or results in this facebook.com UI page. So this is what happens. So here, whatever the request and whatever the responses we are getting, right, this is via APIs only. Okay, these are nothing but APIs, guys. Okay, without the APIs, the communicate. Okay, without these APIs. So here, what's happening is we are requesting and requesting via a this request and response are nothing but APIs, guys. Simple words. And a particular API endpoint will be hit here, and that logic will be running. Okay, API endpoint will hit here, and particular logic will be running, and you will get the response. So here also APIs are there. Okay, here also APIs are there, but these APIs are traveling over internet. Okay, what is the means of traveling for these APIs? Over the internet. So APIs which are communicating over the internet are known as web services, guys. Okay, what are web services? So type of APIs which communicate over internet are known as, if the communication of the APIs, that request and responses is happening over internet, that is web. Okay, the APIs are communicating over web, that is internet. That APIs are called as web services, guys. Okay, that such kind of APIs are called as which type of APIs? Web services. Okay, web services. Fine. So so you see, you need to understand one more thing. Okay, so here this is another reason why developers have to develop the APIs, because for client server communication to happen, for client server communication of a web application to happen, the developers have to develop the APIs. Okay, for that, and the communication will happen over the internet in case of client server communication. And you see, these APIs are generally known as web services type of APIs. There's one more important point you have to understand, that is, what is the difference between web services and APIs? This is very important, guys. Okay, so as I already mentioned here, these APIs are communicating over internet, that is over the web. That's why these APIs are known as web services. Okay, so all web services are APIs. So whatever the APIs that are happening over internet are nothing but web services. So all web services are APIs. Any web service you take, you can call them APIs. That web service is a type of APIs. Okay, web services are a type of APIs. But there is one problem there, that is all APIs are not web services. Okay, so it's not compulsory that this communication should happen over internet every time, right? Only the only the all the web services are APIs, because web services are APIs. Okay, the communicate a type of APIs which are communicating over internet. That's why all web services are APIs. But all APIs are not web services. Okay, it's not compulsory that APIs have to communicate over internet. If APIs communicate over internet, they are called as web services. But if there are kind of APIs types which doesn't communicate over internet, okay, it doesn't communicate over internet. So those APIs are not web services. Okay, the APIs which are not communicating over web or internet are not web services. That's why all APIs are not web services. All web services are APIs. Okay, so an example for the APIs which doesn't communicate over web or internet, which cannot be called as web services, okay, are, for example, Chrome add-ons. So you just go to your Chrome browser, guys. Okay, let's go to any Chrome browser. And this is a Chrome, right? This is a Chrome browser. Let me search for any add-on. Let's say Selectors Hub add-on. I'll go to Selectors Hub, one of the extension or add-on. Chrome browser add-on is there. Here you see I don't have Selectors Hub add-on installed here in this Chrome browser. So what I'm doing is I'm just clicking on this Chrome option, and I'm taken to the Chrome Web Store. So by default, my Chrome browser doesn't have the functionality related to Selectors Hub, right? By default, by default, my Chrome browser doesn't have the functionality related to selectors. So for example, if I go to any website and right click inspect here, I'll get the Google Chrome DevTools. Okay, the browser DevTools I'll get. So here elements is there, and I'll just drag this side. And here you see only the styles, computed layout, event listener, DOM breakpoints, properties, accessibility options are there. But here you see selector sub is not there by default. And in the Chrome DevTools, that is a browser dev tools, we don't have the selector sub option available here. But what I will do is I'll just go to selector sub and click on the Chrome, and then I will add it to Chrome. Okay, I'm extending the functionality of the Chrome browser with this. I'm adding this extra plugin. Okay, because the Chrome browser by default is not providing the functionality of selector sub. I'm adding the selector sub to the Chrome. I'm adding the selector sub to the Chrome. Just see what happens. So when it's adding, guys, it's taking some time. Let it add. You see, once Yeah, it got added, guys. It got added, and you can pin it if you want to see it on the top. You can pin it. So you see now the Chrome browser has a now the Chrome browser is extended with the functionality of the selector sub. So what I can do here is I'll just right click on this and select inspect option, right click and inspect option. And this time you see there is an extra functionality coming here. Selector sub functionality is coming here. The selector sub functionality is communicating with, okay, is communicating with the browser. Okay, this in the Chrome browser earlier selector sub is not there in the Chrome DevTools, but now Chrome DevTools also includes selector sub, which was not there by default. I have manually extended the function of the Chrome browser with the selector sub so that I can get the selector sub functionality in the browser DevTools here. So here, how the communication between the Chrome browser and the selector hub is happening? Is it happening over internet? No. Okay, they are natively communicating, right? It's not happening over the internet, guys. So they are using the APIs. They are communicating internally. Okay, so here also requests and responses are happening between Chrome browser. Chrome browser is actually interacting with the selector sub. Okay, selector sub. But is this communication happening over internet? No, it's not happening over internet. It is internally happening in your local machine. Okay, in your local machine, that is in your laptop only. In your laptop only. It's there is no other machine somewhere in the remote like here. Okay, for example, Facebook you are accessing in the laptop, but the actual Facebook code is there in the Singapore, right? Server, in the Singapore server. But here in this case of selector sub, it got installed in the same Chrome browser, which is there in your local machine only. The communication doesn't require any internet. This requests and responses of the APIs will not actually travel over internet. They travel in your local machine only, in the same machine, in the same browser only, they will travel. So here, APIs, since the APIs requests and response are not communicating over internet, they cannot be called as web services. That's why all APIs are not web services. You see, this APIs related to the Chrome browser and selector hub communication is not happening over internet. That's why all APIs are not web services. So you see, I'll give you one more example. Okay. So there are some softwares which coexist, guys. Okay. There are some softwares which coexist. I'll show you the image. Everyone know about the Microsoft Word, right? Microsoft Word. I'll show you this image. After that, you'll understand what's happening. You see, Microsoft software can coexist with other softwares. Okay. So in your laptop, okay, in your laptop, guys, in your laptop, you generally have the Word document, right? Word document. Okay. You generally have the Word document. If you open the Word document, guys, by default, you will not see this option like Workshare or some other third-party website software related options. You will not see. But here, Workshare kind of third-party software is getting integrated with your Word document. They are working together. So by default, the Word document doesn't have this Workshare. Okay, if you open the any Word document in your machine, it will not have the Workshare options. Okay, because Workshare is another software. So after I install Microsoft Office in my machine, then on the top of that, if I install this Workshare software, then what happens is again, if I open the Word document, earlier in the Word document, Workshare menu will not be there. But after I install Workshare software on the top of the Word document, I'll get this menu options here. Okay, extra functionality I'm getting here. So here, this Workshare software is communicating with the Word document via APIs. Okay, the APIs of the Microsoft Word document are communicating with the APIs of the Workshare. But here, does it require internet? Does Microsoft Word require the internet to communicate with the Workshare functionality here? No. They use APIs and communication will happen internally. The functionality of Word will be communicating with the functionality of the Workshare internally, not over the internet. So here, that's the reason all APIs are not web services. Okay. Here in this case, these APIs are not web services, right? Only the APIs which travel over internet are web services. But in this case, these APIs are not web service APIs because they're not traveling over internet. Okay. The communication is happening locally in your Word document, in your local machine without any need of the internet. The program is talking to program directly without any travel requirement of internet. Okay, that's why all APIs are not web services, guys, but all web services are APIs. Okay, web services are a type of APIs, but all APIs are not web services. Some APIs communicate without internet. Okay, those are not web services. So hope guys you got an idea what exactly are APIs now, right? So instead of going with a single definition, if you understand like this and different reasons why APIs are required, why developers have to build the APIs, and which layer of the application they build the APIs developers, all these things you have to understand, guys. Okay, this is what is a real knowledge about APIs. Okay, don't worry about the definition. If someone asks you about APIs, you have to explain like this. So they will understand that you have the real knowledge of APIs rather than going with the bookish definitions out there in the market. Okay. So that's all for this session, guys. See you in the next session where I'm going to answer another software testing interview question for you. Till then, bye bye.